Welcome back, my spooky followers. Welcome back to Spooky Little Things. And if you're new, welcome. If not, and you're back, welcome back. But yeah, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to continue reading the Great Supernatural Stories, and we're going to read the next story. So, I'll get this going. Again, I do not own any rights to any of these stories. I just thought it'd be fun and to read and appreciate some good spooky things. Now, according to this, these are stories that are either, I think, just tales, horrifying tales. There's 101 of them. Jeez. Huh. So each one is done by a different person. This next one is by Hero Despard. Don't hate me for mispronouncing names or anything like that. I try. My reading's not the best, but I am trying. Aidu, I think, is what this one is next. This one, I think, is a little shorter than the last, but that's okay. It's kind of late for me anyways, so it works for the little bit of time that we've got. Yeah, and again, I don't own any rights to these stories. I don't own any rights to the music that will be playing in the background. I'm gonna add some spooky music playing in the back, so it may hopefully add to the little spookiness of it all. So with that, we are reading Aidu by Hero Despard. And again, my reading is not the best. I do mix up and mess up, but I do love reading, and reading out loud is just fun, so here we go. In the early fall of 1880, I was in Diablo, India, having run down from Bombay upon a sister who had set up a little bungalow there. Diablo is charmingly situated between the sea and the wooded heights of the Western Ghats, and as nothing passed me at that time, I remained there, spending my time rambling about the place and sometimes running into a chance adventure. Thus it happened that following strange experience befell me. One evening in the cool of the late twilight, I was strolling about through the sea end of the town, and stopping before a small temple, which was a little removed from the houses around, stood studying out the lines of the unusual grotesque figures cut upon its face. Dense shadows cast by the rising moon threw the entrance into such obscurity that nothing could be seen within. In fact, I thought the place deserted for the time, and was about to obey an impulse to set up into the shadows banked in the doorway, when suddenly a human figure hurled itself upon me from out the darkness with such force that I staggered back and almost lost my footing. I instinctively threw out my arms and clasped the figure for support. And now, as I recovered my balance and looked down, it was into the face of the fairest woman I have ever seen in my land. The marvelousness of her beauty served to steady my faculties where ordinarily I should have felt bewildered. And still, holding her close, for she trembled as if would fall from my arms, I said in such Hindustained as I was capable of, "Something has frightened you. You are fleeing from danger." Sir, she answered in a voice soft and rich, though broken my low grasp, I must hesitate, and she pulled against my arms for release. From my knowing of the country, I felt sure no woman like the one who stood before me could safely venture into the streets at this hour. And having an Anglo-Saxon's feeling for all womankind, I acted on a quickly formed resolve. I do not know what sends you out into the night, nor with pursuit your fear, but I am ready to take you where you wish to go, I said. I must go far from this place, and alone, she answered, speaking agitatedly. We will go, I said reassuringly. I will take you to your own people. Upon this, her slender body trembled anew, and replying, I have no people. I cannot stay here. She turned from me and began to walk quickly away. I as quickly followed, walking behind her through street after street, she choosing the deserted byways until we came out through some stubborn orchards and finally reached the edge of a stretch of thick forest which belts the eastern side of the town. Here she stopped suddenly and turned to me and entreatingly, leave me. You cannot help. I looked at the town behind and the forest in front, and felt it a moral impossibility to obey. I think I can, I ventured. If you will confide in me, I have a sister here in whose care I can place you. And if anything is threatening you, I can hide you with her. She is an English doctor and is devoting her life to work among your countrywomen. It would be impossible to describe the changes of expression which flashed over her face at this time. Relief, questioning, concern, and doubt arose from the depths of her dark eyes and looked out at me. For some time she stood thus, inwardly debating, and at last answered, Yes, if I may. Come out alone once in 7 days. You shall have perfect liberty, of course, I eagerly assured her. This promise seemed to completely to allay any lurking feeling of fear or doubt. That at once she laid her hand upon mine, saying, I will go with you. Now, I have no hesitation whatever in taking this girl to my sister, who, as I had said, lived in India for the purpose of dealing with the conditions of life surrounding the Oriental woman. Indeed, no sooner had she seen Aidu and heard her story than she insisted upon taking this beautiful wife into our household. No, not wife, a waif into our household, as one of ourselves. And as time passed, and the lovableness of her nature was fully revealed to us, we found that we had rescued one of the rarest of pearls from the depths of the human sea around us. She was pathetically gentle, and when the first constraint of the situation wore off, showed herself possessed of a brilliant, though unformed mind. My sister built many hopes upon Aidu, for that was the name of our waif, as a future conjuror in her chosen work. Though I may as well confess at once that I had other intentions about her. After only a few weeks spent in her society, I found myself deeply in love, and but for one singular, inexplicable circumstance, would have begged her then and there to become my wife. The mystery was this: while she looked the perfection of sweet and elastic health and proceeded in unusually pure vitality, no one ever saw Aidu partake of food. At first we thought that perhaps she shrank from burdening us, and believed that in some way she secretly procured cheap food outside. To all questions on the subject she returned a jesting reply, or else remained plangently silent. Once only during each week was she seen to leave the house, when she went upon those twilight walks for which she had stipulated, and the mystery of her sustenance, puzzling at first, grew darker and denser every day. The more so as Aidu steadily became more reliant in health and tainted like a ripe pomegranate from a fountain of rich vitality. Indeed, she seemed the incarnation of some flawless, vital force, consciously masking itself in human form. But there came a day when I could retain my love no longer. My jealousy of those walks during which she went, I knew not where nor whom to see, became at least unbearable, and I determined to push my misgivings to a conclusion by questioning her outright. Late in the afternoon of one of those 7th days of the week, on which she never failed of her twilight walk, I sought her where she sat in the shade of a transeiled veranda, and setting myself beside her, took her hands in my own. Aidu, you must know how I love you, I said impetuously. I could wipe out the fact of my own soul sooner than I could forget the measureless depth and meaning of the look she gave me. Straight from her lifted eyes, oh, cold and reasonable Westerner, never, even though eternity will you know the infinite of meaning hidden in the lotus heart of love, never having looked into the eyes of Aidu, raised in a pure and perfect confession. I love you, she murmured, echoed of my own words, only but enough. You will not go out alone again now, Aidu? I questioned pleadingly. I would try to do what you ask, even that which I cannot, she said wistfully. Having gained so much, I was in a measure satisfied, but I determined, in virtue of my own undoubting right, to follow her, should she again go on her secret errand. This I hoped she would not do, but later I saw her steal out from the house and walk away, not briskly as was usual, but with a certain languor, as if pulling against her will. It was an easy matter to follow her at a little distance, for she went straight forward as to a well-known goal, never once looking back. On she went, past the houses of the town, out into a stretch of suburban orchards until we stood again upon the edge of the same tangled forest where we had stopped on the evening I had first found her. Surely it could not be that Aidu would venture within those dense shadows. Yes, even here she did not hesitate, forced her way through the gloomy thickets, definitely stepping over obstructions and pushing away the drooping vines, as if the path were a clear and familiar one. And all while I followed, possessed by an intensity of curiosity and feeling which must have given me the eyes of a night animal, for I never for a moment lost sight of her. But while she walked easily and swiftly, I rushed on, panting through excitement, until when at hut she halted and leaned back against a tree in an attitude of expectation. I stopped, trembling and weak from agitation. Agitation. And now that happened which is burnt into my memory forever, as she stood there motionless, her slight figure in its snowy garments dully outlined against the dark tree trunk. I noted that Aidu's eyes were fixed upon a certain spot in the ground before her, within mine followed. At first I saw only a faint glow in the grass at her feet, like the light of two phosphorescent insects side by side. But as this radiance grew and widened, the shape of dark head was outlined within the rays. Brighter and brighter the light grew until, yes, a cobra's hooded head appeared, and from the glowing eyes streamed the rapidly increased light in a coruscating flood. Horror-stricken, I looked at Aidu. She was gazing down into those burning, venomous eyes, whose radiance was momentarily intensified until her wrapped face and figure, the coiled length of the serpent, and even the grass and trees around were illuminated as by the shining of two small suns. Under this compelling gaze, Aidu's languor melted. Her form dilated and changed in my sight as if the very crucible of vital life were there, purging away the particles of mortality and building her form anew out of imperishable materials. Her glowing beauty was indescribable. It was a relation. And now the monster slowly raised himself, stretching up out of his coils until his scintillating fury orbs were on a level with the smiling, dewy eyes of the woman who I loved. She leaned gently forward and softly stroked the molted neck. A tremor shook my whole body. In the moment I was overwhelmed by the horrible certainty that here I beheld the rites of the ancient mystery serpent worship still practiced in certain parts of India, and that my Aidu, served as the unwilling instrument of the priestess of the temple. From those fearful powers she had vainly attempted to escape on the night of our first meeting. Crazed by a fury of conflicting emotions, I seized a stone that lay near and hurled it upon the erect serpent. It struck its neck just below the level of Aidu's matchless chin, and as the ugly head dropped suddenly down upon the coils of his body, slowly settling to the ground, the wonderful light faded, and a heart-rending shriek from Aidu ranged through the woods. I sprung to her side and lifted her in my arms. "Aidu, my love," I cried, "speak to me." But the exquisite form hung relaxed in my embrace, and the white lids slowly shut down over the eyes of my love. The fearful spell had been broken, but at what cost? By arresting too suddenly that strange magnetic current, I had checked the fountain from which her life was fed. Aidu was dead. And that was the story of Aidu. And the next one is a little long, so I'm not going to do that one. We'll just leave it at that. The next one will be the Armless Man. That one will be interesting. So, this book, so far, the stories are actually not that bad. They're pretty good. They can be a little hard to read, just a little, just because of the way they have the words and how intensely the words are. It sounds like it's written back in the day, but it's not bad. I'm enjoying it so far, and I hope you guys are too. But yeah, I will put the name in the description, and I hope you guys will come back for the next story time. And thank you for staying with me and listening to me, even though I'm not that good at reading, and the words sometimes confuse me. And some words are just you don't expect to see. And some of those words I was not expecting to see in those stories. But, you know, it's still fun. I enjoy it. But yeah, I mean, thank you for stopping by. If you enjoyed, put a like. If you like, and if you haven't, subscribe. I'd be appreciative of that. Also, don't forget to check out my merch store. I will also put the link again in the description, and just check it out. New stuff coming. I'm in the process of creating some new designs. I hope to have some more out. But yeah, thank you for being here, and I hope to see you guys on the next video.